All right, so here we are back at the shop with another project. This time we're working on rifle magazines. So recently I bought a couple of 5-round magazines for this AR-10, SR-25, 308 platform and style AR rifle, whatever you want to call it. Um, and I have a bunch of magazines for it. So I've had it for years, but I don't have any 5-round magazines. Now, you might ask, what in the world would you do with a 5-round magazine in an AR? Well, unfortunately, there are some states like South Dakota where you are only allowed to hunt big game if with an auto loading rifle like an AR. If you have, you can only have 6 rounds or less, which means you're basically stuck with 5-round magazines. So I went looking for some 5-round magazines. And in this case, I bought these ASC magazines. And the reason I bought those is because I have several for my Grendel. And there's one. This one's been beat up for a while. These have been great magazines in my Grendel. No problems whatsoever. Love them. These ones that I bought for my AR-10, I have some fitting problems. So mainly the problem is, we'll see if we can look at this. This is my AR-10 style rifle this is a 6mm Creedmoor. You'll have to excuse the white vet wrap on it. It's still winter in these parts. We got snow on the ground. This is my main coyote rifle. So I wrap some white stuff around it just for extra camouflage. Mainly the problem is that it doesn't seat up in there far enough. Like I can just barely get it in, and you gotta kind of really hammer on it, and it'll maybe fit. And this other one, it was actually worse. I've already had this apart, and I've already worked on it a little bit, and it's still just the shell because I'm still working on it. I would get that up in there, and you can see, like, I get right about here, and really gotta push it in there to get it to click in. And actually, before I worked on it, you couldn't even do that. You couldn't even get it seated in there, especially not when the bolt was in battery. So what I've done, and I've already improved this slightly, I'm gonna have to work on it a little bit more. So the problem is, I don't know if we can be able to see this inside the rifle anyway, but there's this little notch here, and the magazine release fits into that little notch. That's what it clicks into. And in this rifle, I have a whole bunch of PMags from Magpul. No problems whatsoever with any of these. They all fit in there great. This one, no problem. Drops free. Great magazine. Only problem is, as far as I can tell, you can't get one in a 5-rounder. I thought about just taking it apart, making my own little shim for it. I don't know. I decided to buy these ones. Well, hardly anything just works, seems like, out of the box. So these ones are going to take a little bit of work. And basically what I did is I put it up in here, and I could, let's see if we can see this. Probably not. Oh boy. There we go. So you can kind of see in there the little notch. Of course, as I try to push this in, we're going to lose the light and not be able to see. But basically, I could see that it's trying to seat up inside here this way too far. So, and I could tell just by looking in there that, like left to right, it's plenty wide. There's no problem there. It's just this dimension here. This whole notch is a little bit too far down, or I should say it doesn't go up quite far enough to allow it to seat in there. So all I've done is, let's see if I can get this. Taking these apart, and they come apart really easy. Not quite as easy as a PMAG, but you just kind of get a little screwdriver in there, and you try to pry it up. Of course, this one's not going to cooperate on camera. And then you slide this little plate off. There we go. Get that in there. Lift this up a little bit, bend it up a little bit, and then you can slide this whole plate off, and this whole part. This is their little restrictor plate. That's what makes this a 5-round magazine. And of course, the spring. Pull that out of there. We'll sit it in there and then the follower, which you don't necessarily have to take out to work on these, but it just comes out like that. And there you go. You got the shell. And of course, it goes back together the exact same way. But all I've been doing is this little notch. I know that I need it higher so I can seat it further up in there and have it engage. So I got just this little flat diamond file, and all I'm doing, move this a little bit, all I'm doing is just holding it and just filing this notch out a little bit. Not a lot. You don't have to go crazy on it. You certainly don't have to get a Dremel out or any of that, because it's not going to take much. I don't want to file too much out of there, because if I do, then the magazines will start, they'll be loose and they won't seat up in there properly, and I might have some failures to feed, that sort of thing. So I want to take just enough out of there so that it actually seats well. And you can see that I need to take a little bit more than that, because it's right about there. It's kind of done. You just got to push it a little bit further, and it just barely snaps in there. So we're going to work on that a little bit, but that's all that I'm doing, is I'm just just filing this notch down, taking a little bit of material off of this side so it seats up in there further. That's it. And then I'm going to put it back together. Of course, the other thing I'm doing, and I got some other mags here that I'm going to work on too, is just about every metal magazine, the feed lips on them are a little bit sharp or a little rough right out of the box. So all I do is take some, this is 600, I think I got some 400 here too. I might try that, but 4 to 600 grit sandpaper, and you just kind of get underneath it and you just polish it a little bit. We're not trying to remove material. We're just trying to smooth it out really well so it's nice and slick, and that way your brass doesn't drag on it, slowing down the bolt carrier. It doesn't scratch up your brass. I like my nice shiny Lupua brass, and you can do that. The other thing that I was looking at doing with this particular magazine is maybe filing this part of the follower a little bit. This is the back side of the follower, and on that last round, let's see, I'll show you. The last round is basically sitting here, and this thing, it seems like it sits a little bit high, and it is beveled or ramped a little bit, but not a ton. And it seemed like when I was playing with it that my bolt was hitting this a little bit as it was coming forward on the last round, which of course is going to slow down your bolt carrier. And if your gun's a little bit dirty, whatever the issue might be, it might slow it down enough where the bolt doesn't actually go into battery on the last round, and no one wants that. And it is a little bit curious because, like, if you look, it might be hard to tell on camera here, but this is the Grendel magazine, same company, It's pretty much same kind of design. Of course, the follower is different and it's a smaller magazine altogether. This is for a Grendel, for an AR-15, but you can see that the back side, if we can get it to focus on it there, the back side of the follower is much more gradual ramp there than what we see on this thing. So I'm probably going to shave that a little bit just to get it to make it a little smoother. So on that last round, when the bolt is riding here, if the bolt does touch this a little bit, it's able to slide over top of it easily on that last round, and I don't get any failures. That is it. I'm going to go to work with the file and the sandpaper a little bit, put it all back together, and try it out. All right, I've been working on this thing, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and all I've been doing, well, I'll show you on the one that I haven't finished yet, is this flat file, just filing this surface right here to make it a little bit deeper so that when it goes up into the rifle, it has a little bit more space there. It doesn't have to be so far up tight into the rifle to actually engage. And the other thing I did was I took 400 grit sandpaper and just polishing the feed ramps just to kind of reduce the drag there and also keep it from scratching my brass. Started with, and you just kind of go like this for a while. Started with 400, then I went to 600. They seem to be pretty smooth. And then the other thing that I did was, if we can get this thing to focus, and here's the one I have on the right, is the one I have not done yet. The follower, I took a file and then finished up with the 400 grit sandpaper and just sort of smoothed this little ramp out a little bit on this one. And again, I don't know if that's going to make any difference. It seemed like on the last round that my bolt was kind of dragging on that a little bit, so I just wanted to smooth it out a little bit to try to reduce the drag there. So I've already tested this a little bit, but we're just going to test. Ooh, don't lose my camera. We're just going to retest the fit in the rifle now that I got it put back together, the magazine that is, and put it up there and just push it in fairly easily. It engages. It launches it right out, so it's definitely not too tight, but I'll try it also with some rounds in there in the magazine, because that can make a difference, and I'll do some function checking too. But I think if it's not there already, it's really close. Fits in there pretty nice, way better than it did before. I mean, before I couldn't even get in. I'd have to really push on it to try to get it to engage, and it wouldn't fully engage. So it's looking good already. I'll just, like I said, function test this one, and then I'll be off to be doing the same things on the other one. And there is one thing I'd like to, I'll call out here. I'm not trying to dig on ASC magazines. They're great magazines. I've used them, like I said, in my Grendel with great success. No problems whatsoever there. In my particular lower, which it might be different for you or for anyone else, in my particular lower with my bolt carrier and bolt, it just is they're a little bit too tight. And you know what? I would much rather have them too tight than too loose. Too tight I can work with. I can just do a little bit of filing on them, and I can get it to fit perfectly in my lower, where it's going to be it's going to function every time, yet not be rattling around and be too loose. So I think that is it for this video. I'm going to get this stuff put back together, and thanks for checking it out.